In the summer of 1994, four teens entered an abandoned building in Gravesend, Brooklyn. It was the last time they would be seen alive. With few clues and no witnesses, the case went cold. But for Anthony Brewer, the brother of one of the victims, the search never stopped. In 2024, he acquired evidence from the police that contained DNA samples that didn't match the teens. That discovery put his life and the life of his family in grave danger. Goosebumps, The Vanishing. All episodes now available on Disney Plus and Hulu on disneyplus.disney.com. Rated TV 14 LB.
So not too long ago, I talked about the concept of a survivor's remorse and what it means to be successful and how success is very relative, to a person. But something I want to also discuss is how success can be determined by the very small human part of you that may still be driving the car, unlicensed. Let's talk about it. Guys, what's good with you? Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and it's so funny. I think a lot of times my intrusive thoughts, they get the best of me before I even speak to you guys, which is why I usually laugh a little bit before I sit down, because it really is. Think of that friend you're about to message or chill with, and you got so much tea to give them. It's like, listen, this has been going down. And I tell you, even in my personal relationships, that's usually how it is. If one of us have something, it's either a look that we give each other, or, somebody starts laughing, or we'll just send a message and we already know what's about to go down. And it's such a funny and awesome way to just communicate with one another. And I think when I come to the podcast, when I come and sit down and I'm like, oh man, what am I going to talk to the birdies about today? What's going on in the nest? A lot of times I realize that when I start, I'm always like, man, it's been a year, or how are you guys doing? Some kind of intro. And I think I just laughed because there has been so much unpacking and so many reveals, so much expansion just happening in the last month alone. I think I was saying before that September is always the month where I feel that the season changes, right? Literally and emotionally, energetically, spiritually. For me, September always marks a time for change. The changes actually happen usually in the summer, but there's something in my body that happens in September, October. And October has truly been such an expansive month. And when I tell you it's expansive doesn't just mean that you get the results of success. Expansive means that there are a lot of things you're being challenged on. And when I tell you guys I have been challenged in some of the biggest ways of my life, that is not an understatement. It is not an understatement at all. I've been challenged a lot. And I don't move without resistance, but I do move with aligned action, right? So when it comes to the choices that I make in life, they're all, for the most part, very uncomfortable. I'll tell you that right now. But what's funny about, the choices that you're making when it comes to growing and expanding and just evolving and really getting what you desire? A lot of times we don't realize that the person that's in the driver's seat is the youngest version of ourselves, right? The youngest, most vulnerable, the most just delicate, sensitive, hyper aware in a lot of ways. That's usually the person that's making the initial decisions or choices when we are looking to expand in life. You know, the reason why is because the kid in us is usually looking for safety first, right? I want safety. And like there might be some elements of adventure. However, they usually are not there. The reason why is because the world is still kind of unfamiliar. And then when you incorporate being an adult who has experienced a lot of challenges, a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks, you integrate that into the child, the child executive function. Let's use that. There can be a lot of fear, a lot of discomfort, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of just exhaustion around doing pretty much anything. Pretty much anything. And when we talk about survivor's remorse, I think when I was talking about survivor's remorse before, it's like, there was this TV show, I think I actually auditioned for it a few years back called Survivor's Remorse. And it was about this, I think it was a basketball player. He went on to become a professional basketball player. And I think, and I could be ruining this whole thing, but I believe that someone had passed and he lived. And there was still some remorse around the fact that he's living, he's healthy, he's successful, but this other person or individual is not. And survivor's remorse does not always equate to a person dying. It could be, surviving a relationship that ends, that dies, that fades out. It could be, moving along, right? Really just growing. And, sometimes you feel bad about your success because of what it requires, what it doesn't allow moving forward. Okay. And I believe, or at least from my experience, when I've had to make bigger decisions, I realized it wasn't just, about, what can no longer be there, who's being cut off, what relationships end. It's not even about that, y'all. A lot of times it's really about having to recognize you cannot exist in a space of comfort, and I use comfort intentionally. You cannot exist in a space of comfort while trying to acquire more from life. From what I've understood, the two do not work. They just don't. Because a lot of times our comfort can be very much in complacency. Like, oh yeah, this is cool. I'll make this work. I'll figure it out. This is just going to be my function. But what you'll realize is if that's not what you're supposed to be doing, there's a lot of voided energy. Like there's a lot of limbo energy. There's a lot of confusion kind of energy. There's a lot of a lack of alignment, right? And that can sometimes bubble up to the surface and looks like frustration, looks like panic, looks like defeat, looks like being overwhelmed, looks like self-fulfilling prophecies, looks very much like self-sabotage, okay? Sometimes you will have to survive yourself to be successful. You will have to live out your journey, your goals for yourself. And that sounds crazy. Like Isaiah, that doesn't make sense. But basically what I mean is that sometimes, and I don't believe in the whole ego death thing. Like that when and I hear it a lot in the spiritual community. I hear that of like, oh, you have to kill off the part of yourself that does this is it. No, you don't necessarily have to kill them off. You just have to tell them, hey, you don't have a license to drive this car. You've been driving around unregistered, You have no insurance. You haven't even taken driving classes. However, I'm the adult here and I've been letting you drive this car. I've been letting you drive this car. And since I've been so comfortable in the passenger seat, being a passenger princess, the idea of telling you, hey, I'm going to take the car or I'm going to drive seems like it'll result in a lot of friction, and I don't want to do that. So instead, I let you drive. Instead, I let you run the risk of us crashing into a wall. Instead, I allow you to make all the very grown up decisions, all because I don't want to be uncomfortable, right? And the reason why I say I don't believe in the ego death or killing off the parts of you is because you are your longest relationship. And I think so often we are fed this narrative in life and society that you have to get rid of yourself. You have to do this to yourself. And a lot of times, most people already have a big issue with rejection, right? Self-rejection. If I'm going through the world feeling like I don't belong in it, why would I be a participant in rejecting myself or reinforcing that idea that I'm trying to get away from? It makes no sense, right? Too often we try to already get rid of the relationship that we haven't even made it a point to repair with ourselves yet. And that is so detrimental because you learn to dislike yourself before you even learn what you like. You learn what you have experienced before you process. All right, cool. Why do you feel this way? Why are you even functioning this way? At what point does the conversation happen with yourself to be like, hey, I'm willing to listen to you more than I'm willing to just leave you behind? Okay. And two things could be true at once. You can say, hey, these parts, these habits, these dysfunctions don't work for me anymore. They don't work for us. But you don't say to yourself, yo, you're shitty. I don't want to be around you. I got to kill this part of me off. Like, no, that's not, it doesn't work, which is why a lot of people walk around frustrated and confused about who they are, because you're trying to kill yourself off and you can't do that. We have this very microwaved idea sometimes about, for one, relationships as a whole, but more importantly, our relationship with ourselves. One of the things I've really tried to work at doing was not becoming so frustrated with who I am or what I do or what I don't do that I don't even like being around myself. And then we go out into the world and we demand from other people, hey, you're supposed to love me. Or this is what you're supposed to do. These are my standards. These are my expectations of you. If you don't fit into my life, then you're out of it. Boom, 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 boom. However, we haven't even made space for ourselves on that level. Emotionally, energetically, realistically, mentally, right? We have not created a mature relationship with ourselves to sit down and have a talk, to sit down and reevaluate some things, to sit down and say, hey, look, I'm never going to leave you. I'm never going to abandon you. I know that has been your life. However, I got you. There's such this rhetoric of ego death. It's one thing I've never really understood, because I'm like, why would I reject myself if I'm already fearful of everybody else doing it? For what? We get mad at people for doing the very thing that we ourselves are modeling. Right? So sometimes it's just simply important to recognize when you are in a state of growth, a state of expansion, there is a lot of the younger you that is going to come up and try to take that wheel and be like, yo, I don't want to do this. This is scary. This is uncomfortable. This is stupid. This isn't going to work. I'm going to get in trouble, right? I'm going to be abandoned. I'm going to be rejected. I'll fail. We can't do these things because this is bad. This feels bad. This feels horrible. And a lot of times it's not even bad. It just feels uncomfortable. It feels unfamiliar, right? And you can ask yourself, what does expansion look like for me? What does growth look like for me? A lot of times we haven't necessarily understood what growth takes. I know last year there were a few things I wrote on a piece of paper. I'll never forget, actually, the beginning of last year, I wrote down on a piece of paper. I think I was watching one of Tabitha Brown's videos, and it was something that she was talking about. Like, she always spits the good word. There's nothing but an expansive heart space that comes from her. And I was watching something that she was talking about, and I wrote down on a piece of paper what my goal was. And I look at how close I've gotten to those goals. And I look at how expansive things have been. I look at what I've outgrown. I look at what I'm still challenged by that I haven't fully grown out of yet. And it is very interesting to see as you start to grow, as you start to participate in habits that invite the growth, that invite the goals that you seek and desire. The younger portion of you will come up. They will be uncomfortable. They will be scared. They will be in your ear. And they'll tell you, hey, we are not doing this because this is bad. And you might let them take the wheel. If there's one thing I can remind you to do, and it's something that I continue to remind myself, is do things scared. You cannot fail. You can only learn. Do it scared. Because I can promise you, as you're fearful and you're going through this process, you'll realize, oh man, I was uncomfortable about doing even this, and I've done it. I'm stressed to hell about it, but I got it done. How do I feel about that? What else can I do? And it doesn't happen overnight because, again, it took a long time for you to get to where you are. It took a lot of patterns. It took a lot of coping mechanisms. It took a lot of things to be who you are. So if you honestly think that that's going to disappear overnight with no discipline to the commitment to change that, or at least improve it or recognize it, you are going to be very frustrated, very overwhelmed, very disappointed with the outcome. Your growth takes work. Your growth takes participation. And more than anything, your growth takes appreciation. One thing I remember is like everything that I desire for Isaiah requires Isaiah to be the one doing the work. So why the hell would I kick Isaiah's back in along the way? I always say my younger self, I thank him so much for continuing to show up. Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. As you get older, the goal is to not get rid of who you are. The goal is to now have the maturity to respect and admire that person. And at least invite them into this aspect of life and say, hey, look, I know things may have been horrible. I know things may have been scary. But I'm going to take you with me now instead of me always asking, where are we going? Don't ask a kid, where are we going? You tell them, hey, here's, I'm going to take us somewhere. I'm going to take you here. It's hard, it's tricky, but I think, when you are looking to be a successful person, you will also cultivate more successful relationships around you too. And it's not this, journey of loneliness. It's a journey of selectivity. Absolutely. It's a journey of sustainability. Yes, but it is not a journey of complete loneliness. Solitude. Yeah. Isolation. No. So I just want you to really think about that. A lot of times when it comes to big decisions in life, we are letting the little person make the decisions about how we pursue it, how we feel about it. But remember, when you become an adult, you now have the opportunity to be the protector, the parent, the adult that you needed as a kid. And you can do it scared. And you can do it imperfectly. And you could appreciate your younger self along the way. All right, that's all I got for you guys. Just something, nothing too important. But in the meantime, please take care of yourselves. Please take care of your younger selves. Please take care of each other. More than anything, take flight.